Paul, are you? Good morning. Yep.
Good morning.
Good morning. Can you hear me on
Can.
Zoom? Morning. Can everybody hear me on Zoom? Maybe give me a
Hear you.
thumbs. Okay, good. There we go. All right, we finally have this technology. I think after 3 years of Zoom, using Zoom daily, I'd have had this figured out by now. Good morning, everybody. Steve Weir, going to be leading up this group, and very happy to have everybody's participation. What I thought, everybody should have received an agenda for today. I think this meeting will be relatively brief. We're going to discuss the scope of the group, going to go around the room, certainly introduce everybody, get some future meetings on the calendar, or at least certainly the next meeting, and just starting the conversation today. So I guess if we, I'll start, no certain order here, just in the way you appear on my screen. I'm going to go with Dan, just to give your introduce yourself, brief introduction of your kind of what you do and what you'd like to accomplish here.
Dan Coyne, you'll have to pardon me. I'm not feeling well, so I don't necessarily sound like me. It's the perfect reason to have Zoom. I'm a past president of the Connecticut Association of Realtors. I also helped write the lead regulations for the state of Connecticut on that group. I've been very, very involved legislatively, probably 25 years up at in Hartford. And the concern here is there an issue? And if there is, how do we address it in a practical fashion? Because, we all know that plumbing has been used for a long time. It's not a new kid to the block. We got to get a handle as to how big of an issue we have and how do we proceed from here. So.
All right. thank you. Next, Mike Tortora. Thank you, Dan.
Hey, everybody, how you doing? Mike Totora. I have been doing mold and air quality investigations for as a consultant, as well as my regular jobs for about 30 years, 25 to 30 years now. So, and I'm happy to be a part of the group. And here's the discussion, and then hopefully we can come up with some solutions. So I've worked in both the private and public sectors, as well as a consultant, doing these investigations.
Thank you very much. Thanks for joining us. Tyron Harris.
Hello, Tyron Harris, representing East Hartford Carriage Park Condo Association. So this is something that we have been dealing with here in East Hartford and our association.
Thank you. What's the name of the association again? Please remind me.
Carriage Park Condominiums.
Carriage Park. Gotcha. Thank you very much. Welcome. Paul.
Morning, Paul Januszewski. I am the president of the Greater Enfield Landlord Association, also on the executive board for the Connecticut Coalition of Property Owners. And I'm a 13-year veteran landlord with several properties in the Windsor, Enfield area, and also with landlords from all over the region, all over the state, through the CCOPO. Previous life, I retired after 45 years serving fire department as a fire marshal, deputy fire marshal. I did 39 years doing inspections and investigations for road compliance with the building code and the fire code. I also worked as a private consultant for those two codes, as well as the EPA code. I'm happy to be here to see what we can do about identifying the problem and finding a remedy that is fair and equitable to everybody. It's most effective.
Thank you very much, Paul. Thank you for joining us and serving here. Harry, we'll go to you next.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Harry Madison Jr. Here representing residents from Carriage Park Condo Association. I'm also an owner with Tyron. And so I appreciate everyone's time today.
Thank you very much for joining us. I see we have Dave and Beverly. And then to my left, we have Chris Ident. So I'll introduce Chris.
Hi, I'm Christopher Ident. I have about 50 years of experience in air sampling and mold evaluations. I've worked for NASA. We've worked as a professor, associate professor at Tufts University, DPA Regional Training Center, also for Quinnipiac College, set up an industrial hygiene program there. And for the university, I taught graduate programs at University of New Haven in industrial ventilation. Currently, I own and operate Mystic Air Quality for the last 35 years. And we specialize in indoor air quality, particularly mold. We do a lot of mold testing for people like Hartford Hospital and a wide range of clients and architect firms on a daily basis.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for joining us. And Steve Weir, one of my responsibilities here, obviously, as a elected official, state representative. I also have served in the disaster cleanup and restoration industry for the past 20 plus years. So cleaning up mold, dealing with water issues, dealing with air quality issues has been something that my firm has dealt with. Usually we come in after the consultants go in and make the evaluations, and we come and clean it up. So the practical side is where the cleanup and restoration side, after the consultants have made their determination of the best way to address it. So that's where we come in. And happy to excited to get working together on hopefully we come up with a solution. That's really what we want to. My goal is to come up with something that where we provide a solution, hopefully without unintended consequences, where it's hopefully a crisp, a clean, effective solution that meets all the expectations of the stakeholders. So looking forward to working with all of you. And I know that I think there's a couple people on the list who may not be here, but may connect with us down the road. So did everybody have a chance to, has everybody read the Public Act? Does everybody have a write-up of what we're looking to accomplish? I'll read a paragraph of what our charge is. Yeah, it's not terribly long. So it's there is established a working group to evaluate the connection between polybutylene pipes and indoor mold in residential and commercial buildings, including but not limited to whether such pipes are a contributing factor to mold growth, the impact of the mold growth on the health of the residents, and potential solutions such as early intervention options to prevent mold growth in buildings containing such pipes and abatement of mold found in such buildings. Then it goes down to talk about who the member, how this group will be made up. And we're looking by January of 2024 to have a report. I'll have to report back in accordance with the general statutes to the Joint Standing Committee of the General Assembly, having cognizance of matters related to public health. So we're looking to have this, our group come back with some findings and recommendations that may or may not find their way into law or regulations, but we're here to make recommendations out of this group. So just want to make sure that that scope is clear. So we're looking to deal with any mold and moisture related issues relative to the polybutylene pipes. So having noted that, I think again, today I was looking to have a brief meeting, make introductions, and then get a couple meetings on the schedule. So what, I guess, are there questions about the scope of work, before we proceed? Does anybody have any questions or want a clarification?
Yeah, I do have a question. When I look at the makeup of the group, do we not have a plumber in here? Because I know there's several generations now of this piping. So I don't know which generation we're even referring to as having the concern, or if it's point A to point Z and everything in between. It seems like it would be a good idea to have a plumber here with a little background or expertise, or maybe a building official that knew building code at various times as to what the new generations are.
That's a fair assessment. And I think I referenced a couple members missing, and I thought that we had a plumber who was appointed. So I'll have to verify
Okay.
if that's the case, but I know that came up. I know that was mentioned in one of the conversations I had prior to getting started.
Okay.
Good point. And I guess if we don't have one who's been appointed, I'll work on that post haste.
Okay, thank you.
Any other concerns, comments before we try to get some? I'd like to get at least one, if not two dates on the schedule. Or maybe you give me a range of days and times, and we'll get something on the schedule. Any other questions, concerns before we get to that?
Yeah, the only thing I would like to just add is, I know we talked a lot about mold, but I also want us to, as we explore options to remediate the polybutyl piping, I also want us to talk about a look at when we do our assessment of the makeup of the piping and how it's deteriorating and breaking and causing leaks that leads to mold. So I just want to make sure that's noted too.
So addressing the current piping in the walls.
That is correct, yes.
Thing. And so what would be the, obviously if it's leaking, it's bad. So what would your,
yeah, so it's just overall, yeah, from the outcome of how can we remediate or remove the piping, replace the piping that's causing the mold? What are our options, or what can we present to businesses or homeowners who have this piping that was put into their homes?
Okay. That's noted. For sure.
We are we restricted to addressing the polybutylene piping? I'm asking because of representing a condominium association, rather large in Windsor, where we have a considerable amount of copper piping that is doing this very same thing. We've had a number of instances where this piping has begun to deteriorate, and there are minute holes that begin to develop with that and go a long time unnoticed. before one of the occupants contacts the association and says, hey, my wall's damp, or I've got mold here or there. When we investigate, in fact, in one of my units in that building, I had the very same thing happen. I had the began to look like a colander spraying inside the wall. So are we restricted to polybutylene, or could we address others?
I will look into that. The legislation says polybutylene, that was
Yeah.
not mentioned. I was in the meeting when, I had concerns about some of the language that was presented in this bill. I was asking questions and at that point was asked to chair the group. So recommendation not to ask a lot of questions, otherwise you end up as the chair. But not in my history, I'm aware of what you're talking about with copper. That didn't come up. I will have to ask that question if that's within our purview. Or if we can somehow reference it, if it's not included in the regular, in our recommendations, but maybe as a sidebar to acknowledge that exists, and maybe there's similar ways to address, if you're addressing one in one manner, maybe there's a similar way to address the other. Not sure. So I will check on that. So I guess I'll go around the room and are there times or days of the week that do not, I'd like to try to get this during business hours if that works, to avoid, evening, everybody's busy. Not that everybody's not busy at work, but if we could carve this out sometime between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m., that would be ideal for me Monday through Friday. Is there anybody that doesn't work for? So we'll narrow that down. I see everybody kind of nodding their heads. Chris, that works for you?
Anytime.
Anytime. Okay, so if we narrow it down further, are there days of the week that people would like to avoid? I'd like to try to get us on the schedule once a week and bang this out. We're a little bit late starting, as you know. We were supposed to convene in September. We're here in October. I'd like to try to get one day on the week. Doesn't have to be the same day of the week. Things come up, I understand, but I'd like to try to set aside an hour and a half once a week during the week, if we can pull that off. Are there days that don't work for anybody? Please speak up.
This time works for me. Looking at my calendar for the next several Wednesdays, I have a standing meeting that I run at 9 that ends at 10. So I don't usually book anything after that between the 10 and 11. So
Generally speaking, Wednesdays are good around 10. Anybody that doesn't work for? Okay. Looking up there, Wednesdays.
work.
How about if I will shoot to try to get Wednesdays, but if we're approaching the holidays and Thanksgiving, I certainly hope to have a little better, by the time we get there, I want to really have this group with some good recommendations started. Any substitutes as a Tuesday or a Thursday or a different time on Wednesday? Maybe we avoid Monday and Fridays if we can help it. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Wednesday being the primary at 10. If we had to deviate, I guess what we can do is try to put Wednesdays at 10. And then week by week, we'll just confirm, does this work for everybody next week, and take it week
Okay.
by. That's just a suggestion.
Okay.
All right. Thumbs up. I see heads nodding. Okay. Then that's what we're going to do, is try to make this Wednesday at 10 as a standing meeting. Somebody has a conflict, I'll have you email me, and hopefully in advance, or we'll get it right on this meeting and say that, hey, that doesn't work for me. But I think when we leave this meeting every week, we should have the next meeting on a schedule that works for everybody. Try to make that accommodation. Like I said, I know this was short and sweet. Any other closing? I'll get some clarifications on adding a plumber, Dan, and possibly building official, whether current or maybe recently retired, something like that. Or somebody who was familiar around that when this stuff has been in the walls. And Tyron, I will look to see if we can talk about options. We're going to make sure that we address that. And then Paul will talk about copper piping, and I'll get answers on that.
Steve, can I make
Yeah, Chris,
a comment?
go ahead.
There was an excellent program on This Old House on polybutylene piping. And basically because it was a real problem, it was installed between 1978 and 1995. It was an oil-based resin. It's a gray pipe, easy to identify. The problem with it is not very strong compared to the current pipes, PVC, all the other types of piping. So after 7 to 10 years, it started to fail. And so essentially it was taken out of production in 1995. So the homes that would have it would be between 1978, 1995, or maybe a little bit later, because it would still be on the shelves. Something like 80% would fail after 7 to 10 years. So a lot of it's probably already been removed. Most of it was used in the Middle Atlantic area of the United States, not so much in the Northeast. Northeast pretty much stuck with copper, which is much more durable, but more expensive. And copper installed properly will last literally, almost a lifetime, depending on the acidity of the water and stuff. But if everybody watched that, you would learn a lot about it. And of course, the problem with water leaks, if it leaks in a wall, particularly if it's an insidious leak from a fitting in a wall, you're not going to see it. You're going to get mold buildup that could last, weeks or years. And the problem with insurance companies, they don't usually cover anything unless it was a short-term water episode. So for a lot of homeowners, if they have it, it's a definite problem because you might not be covered by insurance. Anybody that's a condo association, you want to go and look for any gray water piping because it's definitely gray. The oil is black oil, it's gray. The pipe is definitely gray. It's pretty easy to identify. Problem with that particular kind of resin, it's not a plastic polymer. It tends to expand and contract. It does not go back to its original shape. And that's why it had so much failures. And that's why they stopped using it in 1995.
Okay.
That was the stuff that they used to use, the copper clip that didn't expand like the pipe did and caused a lot of issues then.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, part of it is, we're here to make recommendations and, recommendations and hopefully, campaign for people to understand how to deal with it and educate. I think we can make this to some degree an educational as well. So to your point, how to identify the times, I think we want to lay that all out there, but I'll look for that. Obviously we have everybody on email, so thank you for that suggestion. Maybe I'll find that video and send it out to the group.
I'll email it to you.
Oh, you have it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
all right. Chris just volunteered to send it out then.
right.
So please send it to me and we'll get it out to the group. I think that's be a good way to educate myself on a little bit more about this product. Anything else before we close out for today, everybody?
No, I
Right.
would just add I want to echo what Chris said. Harry and I are unfortunately our condos have not replaced the pipe, which is causing the leak and failing, and now the insurance is not covering these issues, but it's causing our premiums to skyrocket. So what Chris said is absolutely right. A lot of buildings that we're finding have not replaced them, and they're not being covered by insurance. So that's one of the issues that we're dealing with here in East Hartford.
Yes, Steve, let me just add one thing. I also think, and I don't know with other people have sort of experienced with this, but some of these long-term water leaks can be worse than from an environmental standpoint than just a one-time, large water loss, because those are easier to identify and clean up. But then we also see other types of molds that we wouldn't normally see in homes when we have these issues that are long-term. So that's also like another red flag for this, I think.
Yeah, and Mike, to your point, I'm in public health, so I'm hyper focused on this as well. The condo units are interconnected. So my condo is on the 3rd floor. If mine is leaking, you better guarantee there's water on the 2nd and the 1st floor, just because the pipes are all interconnected in every single unit. So it's even that much more exponentially an issue with any type of leak, as it can affect multiple units, and there's really no way to stop that.
Yep.
Great points. Thank you.
Yeah.
Just want to point out that Juliet Parker joined us. Juliet, for our edification, would you mind just introducing yourself to the group? And how where you're from and a little bit of your background, please.
Okay. Hi, I'm Juliet Parker. I am the Groton Town Councilor. For my background, we've been dealing with, I guess, can I say the local place? Yes, Branford Manor had mold issues. So we were working on everything with both the city, the town, Ledgelight, and remediation with the property owners for my background. So I wanted to say I'm hopping on because I realize I'm in EOC today. So I want to let you guys know, forgive me, but I have to participate in our emergency management. I work at the local police department, and it happened to be on the same day, the same time.
Quite all right.
So, but my background, I don't have a background in any part, health, just working as a town councilor, trying to deal and help everybody get rid of their mold. But I think it's going to be an even bigger problem because I think living near the coastline is probably affecting everything at the same time too. So it's a catch-22. So I'm hoping that we can figure out a better way of remediating it for all involved, because I think we're going to find out it's not just Branford Manor that had the problem. We're going to find other homes, especially the older homes, anything built before 1974, anything like that, is going to have some mold issues. Those are my thoughts on that. Thank you.
Fair enough. Thank you. Today was just more or less an introductory, share a few concerns that we're going to try to get addressed before we continue to the next meeting. And it looks like for most people, everybody on this call before, we're going to try to shoot for Wednesdays at 10 a.m. That seems to work going forward. And then at each meeting, we will confirm, we're going to basically put on the calendar Wednesdays at 10. And next Wednesday, we will confirm that the following Wednesday works for everybody before we book it. So just letting you know, we'll same day, same day, same time, same channel, and we'll try to be back here next week, and I'll get some of the answers. Dan asked questions about other people serving. Tyron asked questions about options to remove the piping, and Paul wants to know if we're limited to copper. So before we get back next week, I'll firm those up. And then Beverly's going to send out an email. We'd like everybody to include just for your name tags, name, title, and maybe the association or the company that you're with. So name, title, and organization. So she'll send out an email if you can respond to that, and we'll look forward to seeing you next Wednesday at 10 a.m. And again, thank you very much. This is something important. Appreciate all your service and volunteering. Have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, Steve. See ya.
Thank you.
Thank you.